Meth goes by many different names. They call it crank, crystal, ice, speed, go fast.
David Parnell grew up in Martin, Tennessee. He had a bond with his father, but it wasn't ordinary like going to baseball games together. At the age of 13, Parnell smoked pot for the very first time with his dad.
He's actually used with most of his kids. He was convinced that there was nothing wrong with marijuana, and he's a drug addict. I mean, that's just that simple.
At the time, he was young and saw his dad as a role model, and he quickly picked up that lifestyle.
I was buying marijuana off my bus driver, taking it into the high school, selling it for him.
He later got cocaine into the mix, and at the age of 21, tried meth for the first time. Dad was the icebreaker for this drug as well.
I actually had never experienced any kind of adrenaline rush like that before off any other drug. And I actually thought, wondered if I was going to have a heart attack. It was such a strong rush.
When he used, the former truck driver wrapped his meth in little balls of toilet paper and ate them, often helping him stay awake for almost a week straight. He hallucinated frequently and often physically abused his wife while his kids were in the room. He says his children were terrified of him.
These little babies don't make a decision to want to live in them homes, but they're forced to. And I'm convinced that any child living in a home where there's meth use, particularly meth, that they're being abused either by neglect or so many times physical abuse.
He's been with his second wife, Amy, for 11 years. Together, they have 7 kids, but in February of 2003, he almost lost them all. After his family threatened to leave, the meth addict put a gun to his chin and fired.
I was conscious during all of it. I remember the gun blasts and my face blowing apart. The meth kept me awake, but it's not the pain that I remember, it's those children standing over the top of me crying, and my mother and my wife stand over the top of me screaming and crying, and that's the things that haunt me to this day, the pain that I put them guys through.
He was in such bad shape that the sheriff's department wrote him off dead on the way to the hospital, but he eventually fought back, spending almost 2 months in bed. Since then, he's had 18 reconstructive surgeries to his face. Although he had cravings for a year after the suicide attempt, he hasn't touched any drugs since. Today, he's a motivational speaker, part of a small group of recovering addicts who aren't shy about telling others about their former lives. The Tennessee man says he's heard about the growing meth problem here in western Wisconsin, and he says he's happy to share his story with a group of students and parents at Ellsworth High School. He says there's one main message he'd like to get across to them.
That this stuff will kill them. That whenever they get on meth and start using it, that they've given themselves a death sentence and they're going to die unless they quit using.
They have had people that went on mass murder sprees where they had heard people, they said talking to them, tell them to go up there, get your gun, and go kill everybody that you see.
He doesn't hold back anything in his speeches, showing graphic pictures and telling the absolute truth. He says anything he can do to help keep young ones away from the drug that nearly killed him.
If I had known more about it, maybe I would have made a wiser decision, but I know I've had other young people come up to me and said if I had only known that it was this poisonous and that it would do this to me, I don't think I would have used it.
Methamphetamine controlled David Parnell's life for 14 years. The only way he could defeat his addiction was by nearly defeating himself. In Ellsworth, Chris Duffy, News Center 13.